Let's take a look at what the FAA wants you to know about the pitot static system instruments. And the first thing the FAA wants you to know about the pitot static system instruments is what are they? Which ones are they? Well, they are the airspeed indicator, the vertical speed indicator, a lot of people call that the rate of climb indicator, and the altimeter. Now, all three of these instruments are connected to the static system vent, to the calm air outside the aircraft. We're showing these here on this drawing like so. Now, these static system vents are basically holes in the aircraft that are connected by plastic tubing to all three of these instruments. Now, these holes for the static system vents have to be outside the slipstream effect and outside the ram effect so that they get a good sample of the still, calm air outside the aircraft. So we take the air from the calm air outside the aircraft, and first of all, it runs by plastic tube to the altimeter. Now, the altimeter simply measures that air pressure, and the hands tell you the air pressure calibrated in thousands of feet above sea level. So basically, all the altimeter really is an air pressure measuring device that gives you its answer in thousands of feet above sea level. Now, the vertical speed indicator, or the rate of climb indicator, is really kind of interesting. It takes the air from this calm air, and as you go to higher and lower altitudes, the air pressure changes. Well, the vertical speed indicator is basically a box with a hole in it. And as you go to higher altitudes, the air wants to rush out of that hole through the static system vent. Well, the vertical speed indicator simply measures the speed at which the air rushes in and out of that hole and gives you your rate of climb and rate of descent. And finally, the airspeed indicator is also connected to this calm air from the static system vent, but in addition to being connected to the calm air from the static system vent, the airspeed indicator is connected to the ram air from the pitot tube. Now, the ram air from the pitot tube comes in and it had an increased pressure because the air rams in the front of the pitot tube. So you have to locate the pitot tube somewhere where the air will ram in the front of it, and you have this increased pressure from the pitot tube, and it's piped to the airspeed indicator. Now, the airspeed indicator basically measures the difference in the air pressure from the ram air from the pitot tube to the static tubes, and it compares the difference between the two, the static system vent. And that difference between the two is your airspeed indication. Now, as you might guess, the FAA will ask you a few questions about this on the FAA written exam. They're going to say, let's assume, super pilot, the pitot tube becomes clogged. Which of these three instruments would be affected? Well, there's only one of these instruments connected to the pitot tube, and that's the airspeed indicator. So the airspeed indicator would become inoperative if the pitot tube becomes clogged. And the reason for that, of course, is the airspeed indicator gets its information from the ram air from the pitot tube. Now, they're going to say, all right, this time let's assume the static system vents become clogged. Which of the instruments would be affected? Well, all three of these instruments are connected to the static system vent, so all three would be affected, and all you have to be able to do to answer this question is be able to name the three static system vent instruments, and they are the airspeed indicator, the altimeter, and the vertical speed indicator, and all three of those would become inoperative if the static system vents become clogged. And the final question they're going to ask you about this, same answer, they're going to say, let's assume both the pitot tube and the static system vents would become clogged. Which instruments would be affected? And those same three instruments, the airspeed indicator, the altimeter, and the vertical speed indicator would be affected. So now, with this information, you know everything the FAA is going to ask you on the FAA written exam about those three instruments.